This is Diana Cooper's solo show at the New York Studio School. It's called Gleanings. It's work from 1997 to 2018. It's a survey of her smaller work. This is her 2D work, and then she goes between 2D and 3D. This piece around the corner here is an example of her 3D work that combines some cutout 2D elements, and she's really exploring a lot of different material. I'm also interested in how Diana uses scale and relationship of space. So I've been a fan of Diana Cooper's work for a really long time, and I've had the pleasure of meeting her and talking to her, and it's really great to just see this selection of her work, because I think it gives a real insight into her studio practice and this balance between structure and whimsy. In this piece, she has this versatility of working kind of on site and in this kind of self-contained world, like this piece. This one is called Daphne. So Daphne, about the nymph who turns into the laurel tree to escape Apollo's kind of chase after her. This work is just a real feast of textures and overlap and underlap and reworking. It's almost like she's knitting together paper and imagery to form this real kind of worked and emerging composition image. So you can see how this exhibition combines 2D and 3D elements. This is a whole installation of smaller works. They look like studies. Some have shallow relief off the wall. Some have sort of a diptych format, or some are kind of photographic interventions where she takes a photograph and draws into it. She generally is looking at construction sites and construction materials and structural compositions that she finds as images or creates. It's really fascinating to spend time in her visual vernacular, visual world. The surface qualities are also really interesting. You can see there's some shine and moire patterns created, and the combination of drawing and photography is also really stunning. Just formally, the sort of high contrast graphic quality is great too. So this work here is relatively achromatic, and then we shift to a pretty monochromatic red piece. You can see that she kind of really scales up in terms of the paperworks. And here's another sculpture that's looking at that kind of diptych compositional organizing system. Here's the first room, and I wonder sometimes about where the materials come from, because they seem so perfect, but then they look like they have some other function. And here is another framed work, and the amount of detail in the drawings and in the collage components really transports me as the viewer into these often complex but harmonious compositions. And now to look at some details. One of the things that's really interesting about the work that I didn't notice before is how much she uses photography of structures. Like those are all, look like they're all listening and viewing devices, antennas and video cameras, and then pictures, like those green elements are photographs, but she repeats, mixes, changes the value, the filters on the images, and they just become components of this abstract landscape that has roots in structural construction, architectural language. This piece is really interesting too. It's so dark. It's only achromatic work, and so the lines here are this pipe cleaner, and so it's a sort of like a mesh on mesh. And what I mean by that is like there's drawing, but then overdrawing and overlay. And this one is called the black one. And when you take it all in as a whole, you can see how she goes from like the baseboard all the way to the ceiling trim, and it really becomes like this map on the wall or circuit board or some kind of connectivity of elements with these different 2D, 3D surprises. This one is untitled 2017, 2018, and again it has photographs as part of the elements, and so you have the photographs of the brick or roofing, and then of like the siding or concrete mixed in with the lines that she makes and the patterns she makes. It's really interesting because of that combination invented and documentary quality of the looks. It's called the High Line. You can see how she's playing with this idea of an elevated structure. And this one's also pretty much achromatic, but it has a little bit of tints, like this gray, violet, or pink gray, or yellow gray. Very interesting. Take a closer look at some of these pieces up here on the wall. Here she's also playing, both with the photographs of the stripes and then the drawn stripes and painted stripes. And then here are some cutouts on a photograph with reflective material in them. Here using the grid of this bound sort of basket form to create a sculpture. Really fascinating. I love this piece a lot. Where it becomes like this construction chaos, and then like this beautiful little portal in the center here. This piece is called Facade, and it's a lot of combination of chain link fences and I guess maybe the facade of a building or some other surface. And it's relatively achromatic with a little bit of blue, and a little bit of tone here and there. But it has also really nice shadow plays, as you can see behind those cut out chain link fences. And I think not only is it interesting formally, the use of all this structural construction material as a subject matter, whether it's architectural construction, fences, whatever, the idea of like something being contained or separate or enclosed is then broken in these. So it's like structure, anti-structure, new structure. So here's one, it's totally red, called Overdrive. That's a great name for it. And so this one looks like it's primarily ink. Yeah, it's ink, colored pencil, and marker. You can see how like there's a little bit of a warping of the paper, almost like the energy of the drawing, seeps into the materiality of the paper. All right, congratulations, Diana. Nice show. And for anybody else who wants to see it, it's up until April 15th. Thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe and like.